Hello lovelies, welcome back to The Tangent. We're on episode 5 and welcome. I hope you're having a beautiful day. I have been disabled for my whole life, so as a lifelong disabled person, my relationship with my body has been complex. I am pretty self-aware, I think, but not always besties with my body. And I want to share a little bit about that journey with you in today's episode. So let's get into it. Buckle up, lovelies. We're taking a ride through some of the quirkiest corners of my life on wheels. I'm Katie, and I've been doing this disabled thing since day one. This is not your typical disability education podcast. Every tangent, every detour is a chance to look behind that curtain of disabled life, unravel the threads of confusion, and discover those, whoa, that actually makes sense moments. Eventually, this is the tangent, where laughter is the map, curiosity is the compass, and understanding blooms even in the craziest corners. Hit subscribe, grab your headphones, and get ready to be surprised, because the way to understand why is to embrace the wild, hilarious how. So let's do the thing. Okay, so a quick reminder with what my disability diagnosis is. I have a cerebral palsy and a degenerative neuropathy. I've been a lifelong disabled person, so I've always had something going on with my body, and how the info about this situation has been managed and shared and sold to me has always been something. This is not working for you in the same way as others, so you have to make some plans and find new ways of doing the things, because you have a life to live, and let's go do the things. As a lifelong disabled person, I think that it's a long journey and it can be rough sometimes. I appreciate my disability and all the things it brings to my life, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't make my life hard sometimes. But we also have to remember that life experiences are relative, so being kind about all these differences and recognizing those differences with compassion also matters. Having all of that in the conversation as well, I think we can talk about some of the hard stuff with my disability. A few years ago, I sort of uncovered some interesting things about aging with cerebral palsy. I did have a mild panic about it, but I'm fine with it now, and it makes sense to me. And so here's the big takeaway that I'm choosing to acknowledge and recognize. The thing about cerebral palsy that I understand is that because your body is working so hard to do all the things that it's trying to do as a body, your body gets tired earlier and faster than it would for a non-disabled body. And that makes sense to me because I feel like my body's working so hard. I burn so many calories, you guys. I get tired a lot quicker than other people. And we're also working against my body. So working against what it naturally wants to do, which is spasm and stuff. So making sure that we can still function as a person and do the things that I need to do takes a lot more energy, and that's okay. And I also have a couple of things that have become more of a deal for me as I've got older. I don't know if they've become more of an issue or more prominent, but maybe I've just become more aware of them or accepting of them over time. But here are some examples that I think are interesting. The first one is tactile aversion. This is a CP thing, and for me, it's certain foods, certain materials or textures, certain like creams don't work for me. I could do a whole episode on this alone, but we're not gonna do that today. So with the tactile aversion, I think I recognize it better as what it is now, rather than sort of explaining it away so quickly as not being a big deal. Like I would always say, oh, I don't like this kind of food, rather than saying, like, I can't eat that because my disability makes my body not like that. So I guess we've reached the point of, like, acceptance and disability pride that, like, it's okay to say that I have these sorts of challenges. And that's why I feel like it hasn't necessarily become more prominent, because it's always been a thing. But it's also kind of just less like acceptable for grown-ups to have such extreme reactions to eating a certain type of food. Or like if you have an extreme reaction to eating a mango or feeling a fluffy jersey and like not being able to breathe if you put cream on my hands. It sounds very dramatic to say that as a 29-year-old person, but it is what it is. And I'm fine with that now. And I need other people around me to also be fine with it, because it is what it is, people. And interesting to me is that it's pretty easily triggered. And if it is triggered, then it can take like 30 minutes, sometimes more, for my body to normalize again if it is activated. And I'm probably seen as being dramatic if I don't do a whole explanation of what's happening with my body. And maybe that's just me projecting a whole lot of internalized ableism, but that's sort of how I feel about it sometimes. So now I just explain what's happening and move on. Another thing is, like, I've been having a few of these big aha moments about my disability over the past few years, and I've had this big realization that my hard body days are so different to other people's. And I've started realizing that and understanding that my baseline for a hard body day is way higher than non-disabled people. So the way that I have to explain and express it to people is different, because if we think about it, every day is a hard body day. So let's look into this a little bit. I live with cerebral palsy, which is standard practice for me, but it's not typical for the majority of the population. So I need to create a bridge of understanding for the people around me that, like, we have different life experiences and our perspectives are different, and that's fine, and making space for both of those things. But having this realization has meant that I need to give myself more grace and allow myself to have these hard body days, and maybe take a day, not just pushing through everything and pretending it's all fine, because sometimes it's not fine. And it is fine to not be friends with my body today. It's fine to allow my body to be a body that's not really working for me and with me in this moment today. I'm allowed to feel the feelings that come with that, with these hard body days that are defined by my own baseline. And most days I block out when my body is low-key uncooperative. Maybe that's a problem, but I have shit to do. And if this is an everyday occurrence and my body just is this, then we've just gotta make some plans. I think it's important to talk about this because our body is our vessel for life. It's how we get around, it's how we do things. So we should interrogate our relationship with our body more forcefully and meaningfully so that we can use it to the best of its ability. So I think that makes sense. But I also want to talk a little bit about what it feels like to exist in my body. So I want to talk a little bit about pain. I'm not good at this because I choose to focus on other things and be that positive disabled person most of the time. I can do that and still have a body that's not cool to me and be in pain. So I want to just take some time to address it and talk about it. So I need to now become super self-aware this second because remember I generally block this stuff out, but as I sit here I have pain. My knees hurt, my left hip, my lower back, my shoulders hurt, and my neck is not being very cool to me right now. So recognizing that is hard for me, and saying that out loud is hard because I do want to promote that I'm a capable disabled person and that I'm positive and that I am not brought down by any of the things that I exist with, but they can be hard sometimes, and pain is a big thing to live with. Only recently, this is not funny. I think it's funny to me that it's taken me this long to recognize certain things and to process certain experiences that I have as a disabled person. And so I only recently, in the last year, have started processing the idea that I have chronic pain. So to me, it's always been its own thing, its own diagnosis. I never understood it as being possibly a symptom or a result of my cerebral palsy. So here's what happened in one of my therapy sessions when I was complaining about my knees or whatever. So literally it went something like this. This is me. I said, I don't have chronic pain. My knees and my back just hurt. And they asked me how often. And I said, every day. So you have chronic pain? No, that's not what it is. It's just that my back hurts. My brain made no room for that possibility at all. The level of denial that I had about living in constant or chronic pain was unparalleled in my existence for any other thing related to my disability. So I think part of it is not giving it enough room to become overwhelming and all-consuming. Partially because societal narratives around productivity and efficiency and whatever, and it's really complex to be a compassionate disabled person. At this point, I want to take a little bit of a tangent and just mention that yes, we have the disabled community, but there are different parts of the disabled community. We're gonna come full circle shortly. But I think that above and beyond this whole idea that I want to come across as strong and positive and all of that stuff. I think there was a part of me that didn't want to be disrespectful to a part of the disabled community that I feel I'm not a member of. And this is what I mean, that like the disabled community is complex and nuanced and very diverse and broad. So there's a part of the community that is built of people who live with chronic illness, and because I never had like a diagnosis of chronic pain, and I know at some level that chronic pain is like a part of life for many people in the chronic illness and spoony community, I felt like I didn't have like the right to claim that for myself, because I don't want to insert myself into a part of the community that I'm not a member of. I don't know if that made sense. But like, I don't have a chronic illness. I have a like lifelong disability, and those are very different things, and you manage them differently. And so in recognizing that we have this diversity within the disabled community, and that I don't have that lens to understand disability from. I'm realizing now that in doing that, I was sort of like denying my own experiences. So I've realized that I am able to have chronic pain and not have it be given to me as a label. I can still acknowledge it as a part of my life and as part of my disability. And there are things that I need to remind myself of. A couple of those things. I need to remind myself that I am not making a scene if I tell people about being in pain, or if I need to do a vein check because of a hard body day. I am not less than because I need to do this on a particular day because my body is not working with me. And it's pretty frustrating when my body is being shitty and uncooperative. And maybe I'm not so excited that my disability is showing up so fiercely today. Like, can you just calm down and like take a seat and let me go and do my life things, please? Can my body just be a body? And the answer is no. The answer is no. I have a disabled body. I do not have a non-disabled typically developing body. My body exists as a disabled body, and I live with it every day. And you think that after 29 years that I would have it down to a T, but that's definitely not the case. I have much frustration when my body takes over, and this is especially with things like fitness. And so when I'm in the gym and I'm like doing CrossFit things, I have pretty good examples and like good coping mechanisms, I guess, that I've adapted and learned from people. And so I have a biokinesis coach human who's wonderful. He's Marco. He's awesome. He has a mantra that I've sort of taken on board, and it's this: you have to work with the body that you have today. And when he said that to me the first time, I really wanted to hit him in the face, because clearly I was having a hard body day and it was not working with me, and I was frustrated because like I've learned this movement and I know how to do it, and I've created the neural pathways. Why are they not firing and doing the things? It's not that hard. Why could I do them 2 weeks ago and not do them today? And like, he was just very zen and calm about the whole situation, and says to me, like, your body just didn't show up as it did when we were learning those things. It's fine. We can still do the workout. We're just gonna adjust the movement and do something else so we can still achieve the thing. We're just achieving it differently. That's a really powerful thing to say. But you also have to be like open in that moment to receive that kind of feedback. And I wasn't necessarily at that time. It had to sort of sink in. And now, after 6 years of going and having my body regularly take a moment, I can appreciate that perspective a lot more and take it on board and actually give myself the grace and say, you know what, I showed up today with a different body, and that's nothing on my motivation or my commitment. It's just the body is what it is, and it's a wild place to be. I think what's cool about stuff like that is that we can have other perspectives build on your own, and you don't have to take it wholeheartedly. I can take parts of that approach and mantra and take the ones that work for me and let that be, and sort of mold it into what works for me. I like that. I like having the space to not be okay with things and to be grumpy and frustrated, but still get the work done. It's a unique opportunity to face your body and to face your disabledness in a way that's still uplifting and motivational and still builds your self-esteem in a good way. Because I don't like putting out the idea that I'm overcoming my disability, because I'm really not. I'm overcoming nothing. I am living with and navigating life with my disability. I'm not overcoming it. And I think that's the thing about having a lifelong disability, is that it is a long-term commitment that we're making, or that was given to us. So I think an interesting analogy that I thought about the other day was having chronic pain, having a body that doesn't cooperate with you all the time. It's like the hum of a TV that you know it's there, but you don't notice it until it's not there. Like, you don't notice how loud the hum of a TV is until you go on like a 4-day camping trip and there's no TV technology noises, and like it's just quiet, like just the occasional cricket. I think that's what like living with my disability is, and like in my body specifically. Let me explain this. So I was in hospital. It happens like relatively regularly. And this was on 2 separate stays. I talk about it like it's a hotel. Anyway, so I had 2 separate like medical crises that landed me in the hospital for like a few days each time. And what happened in these stays, I think I was like, I don't know what led to this happening, but each time I was prescribed like muscle relaxants, and it takes a while for them to start working, but once they start working, like my legs stopped fighting me, and there was just such calm. And let me just say here that I don't feel uncomfortable in my body. It's my version of what comfortable feels like. So there's always something happening, but I'm not uncomfortable like actively. So my version of comfortable. But now my legs are not fighting and I'm just like so zen and I'm not feeling super spastic, and that was a crazy thing to process, like to experience as somebody that's constantly having your legs moving or constantly there's tension and then you don't have that. Like, this is not my body. I was actually like low-key uncomfortable with it. Like, it gave me discomfort in like my understanding of self, because I was like, this is not my body. What is happening? Like, looking at nurses being like, this is how you feel every day. I must have sounded like insane to these people. Oh my goodness, this is what bodies are made to feel like. Are you serious? So that was like 4 days in my whole life where I have not been fighting with my body. That was a part, like a formative experience. And I think having a counter experience is powerful. My everyday experience is living with my disabled body, so having this moment to kind of reflect and be like, oh wow. It was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was nice, guys. Like, I kind of liked it, but it's not a sustainable thing for me, and I appreciate my body the way it is and everything it does for me, and I know how it works this way. I don't need to relearn or learn how it could work if it wasn't the way that it is. I feel like I don't feel like that's a good spend of my time. So maybe this is a little bit of a downer of a conversation, but I think it's an important part to embrace as well. So as we come to the end of this thought, I'm going to bring in some positive perspective back in here now. So I think that disabled bodies are remarkable. If you think about it, we are fighting the odds on the regular. We're showing up with bodies being like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that, hey, and what are we doing? We're doing the things anyway. We have bodies that teach us creativity, like new ways to figure things out, new ways of doing things, because they don't work in the standard mainstream typical ways. It's also, in a funny way, my body and my disabledness is teaching people around me. It's building the reflexes and like solid response times of the people that I surround myself with. One tip that I would give to any person with like a spasticity related disability and an ankle operative body would totally be maybe invest in some travel mugs with lids, guys. Saved so many things with travel mugs. Anyway, I also think that living with my disability has given me a grit and determination, and I think having this level of stubbornness within my body has been helpful in achieving many things. But also, my experiences with my body have led to some other interesting things that I am working on. I am not a fully evolved human being. Given this whole conversation, I am recognizing that I am not really able to be compassionate with people about dealing with pain. It is not my area of expertise. I have not reached that point in my evolution where I can be a supportive person to people who complain about pain. I realize that this is like maybe contradicting my earlier point about having compassion and grace. But that was with myself. It was not with other people. It's hard for me to empathize with people when they have hard body days that are different to my baseline of a hard body day. But we are here for learning, and I don't really have the solutions. I just want to be open and share about experiences, and maybe this is the moment that we need to make some space. Let's make room for these moments of not being super stoked about your body. And I think the closing point of this conversation is that we need to work harder for being compassionate with ourselves, being kind to ourselves, having space for us to take a day if that's what we need, and to give our bodies a little bit of what they need and not just fight them all the time. But also making space for complaining, because sometimes you need to do that too. Complaining with compassion, I think. Let's have that be the takeaway of the minute. I hope that this has been insightful and led to some sort of reflection. I am very happy to tackle these topics with you, and let's see how many of you relate to that and have your own stories. If you do, then share them. Let's open the floor for the conversation to flow, and I'll see you in the next one.